Hi everyone, welcome. Welcome everybody. Please let us know where you're tuning in from today. What city, country. Hello, Chidinma, how are you? Welcome. Are you tuning in from Winnipeg? Okay, welcome. Got people from Nigeria. We'll be starting in about a minute. Let us know where you're tuning in from, everybody. Katsina, Nigeria. Welcome. Where's everybody else tuning in from? Just make a comment in the chat box below. Tell us what city, country you're tuning in from. Lagos, Nigeria. It's good. Let's start. Welcome everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you're tuning in from. My name is Bester Guffere, Canadian Immigration Specialist at Tofino Immigration Consulting. At Tofino, immigration will help make Canada your new home. Now, the question that I get very often from clients is if they have to take the IELTS exam or any language exam for that matter. Language exams have stopped lots of people from immigrating to Canada. We don't want a language exam to stop you from your immigration goal. So today, we've invited an IELTS specialist, Kiera. She's going to be helping us a little bit to explain about this exam, the tips that we need so we can be successful in this exam so you can eventually immigrate to Canada. So I'm going to go find our guest. In the meantime, let us know where you're tuning in from in the comment section below. Invite a friend, invite a neighbor, and I hope you have a great time. I'm going to go find our guest. Hello.
Hi, how are you?
Pretty good. How about yourself?
I'm good as well. Thank you. Thank you so
Awesome.
much for having me.
Well, thank you for taking the time. Thank you for taking the time. Lots of. Are you calling from Kamloops today, or where are you tuning from?
Vancouver.
Vancouver. That's good. That's good. British Columbia. That's good. So, the IELTS exam, of course, lots of problems for potential immigrants. Lots of them are looking for ways to avoid taking this exam. One of the questions I get very often is, "Best, do I have to take this exam? Is there any other way?" And these are people that speak English daily. Like some most African countries, well, Nigeria specifically, and Ghana and some other countries, they're English speaking countries. But people go write this exam and they still really struggle. So we'll get right to it. And I have a few questions for you. So I hope you're able to help us a little bit to answer some of these questions today. And for people tuning in, if you have any questions about the IELTS, just put them in the chat box below. And we're going to see if we have enough time. We'll be taking some questions as we go along. Now, Kiera, first question for you. Do you think this exam is difficult?
Oh my gosh, this exam is so incredibly difficult. And I think that's where such a struggle comes from, because students are like, yeah, I'm a fluent English speaker. Of course, I'm going to take this exam and I'm going to be fine. And then they take it and then they're just shocked by how challenging it is. It's absolutely difficult. I'm an IELTS expert and I take this exam and I think it's hard. That's how difficult this test is.
Right. So it's not like these people are making stuff up and saying the exam is just difficult. It's actually true that even as an English speaker, you could still struggle.
Yeah, absolutely. So I always say this on all of my lives. So the test goes from 0 to 9. So 0 is you didn't write it. 9 is that's the absolute highest score you can have. The average for native speakers is 7.
Right. Right.
So,
okay.
Yeah.
That's good. So can you give us like a brief overview about this exam? What like the categories and what is it about in general? The IELTS general exam.
Yeah, so it's just as its name, tells you, it's an English language proficiency test.
Okay.
There are two. I think a lot of your followers are probably going to be needing the general training.
That's correct.
That's the one for immigration.
Yeah.
So there are four components. There's the speaking, listening, reading, and writing.
Yeah.
Each of these are worth 25% of your overall mark.
Okay.
And they're all scored from 0 to 9 as well.
And which one of these categories is the most difficult, you think?
Everybody, no matter where they come from, how good their English capabilities are, everybody struggles with the writing test. Absolutely.
And why is the writing so challenging then?
Because you can be. I have a friend, and his wife is a native speaker. She has her master's. She got her master's from a good quality university here in Canada. And she only got a 7 on the writing. So the standard is so high for a 9 that even somebody who has a master's cannot score above a 7 without preparation.
Right. So, of course, what we need to immigrate starts with a CLB 7, right? There's a program called the Federal Street Worker Program under the Express Entry umbrella, and we need a CLB 7 score in general to be able to be eligible to get into the pool. And even people struggling to get the CLB 7. The ideal candidate for immigration under the Federal Street Worker Program would be somebody that has a master's degree, 3 years work experience, and a CLB 9. That means your score would be like very high to get an invitation without needing extra points from the province and stuff like that. Is a CLB 9 achievable?
So is this a CLB 9? I think is a 7.5 on the IELTS.
It will be like a C1 equivalent. Let me get you the actual scores. So the actual scores would be for CLB 9 would be an 8 for listening and a 7 for the rest of the bands.
Yeah, it's absolutely possible. 8777. I just had a client. He got an 8 overall, so even higher. He had a CLB 10. It's absolutely possible. It just takes preparation.
Right. So in terms of what you've seen so far in your experience, what are the top 5 common mistakes that people make during this exam?
The top mistakes, when it comes to listening, it's not being able to like actively listen, but it's definitely a skill that you can acquire with time and work on. Reading, the biggest mistake for reading is people try and read everything. There's just no time. You have to go ahead and you have to search for the answers. You can't actually read everything on the test. There's just not enough time. When it comes to speaking, and this is shocking to a lot of people, but one of the things that holds people back from scoring high is they use too much academic language. They try and speak so formally, but actually we don't communicate like that. You want to speak informally. You want to be using idioms and these sorts of things, phrasal verbs. So I think that's where people kind of are surprised with why their score isn't as high as they expected. And then with the writing, it's not just an English test. They're testing your capability of coming up with really good responses. They don't care they do care how good your English is, don't get me wrong, but they also care about how good your answer is.
Right.
And that's a struggle for people.
Okay, so if we were to go through this 4 categories, just to get a few tips, let's say 1 or 2 tips for speaking, writing, and the 4 categories. Are you able to provide us some tips so people can start to do better or think a little different about this exam? Like, what would you say your 2 tips would be for writing then, for example?
For writing, for general, definitely knowing for task 1, the different format for a formal letter and an informal letter. That will help you huge. Also, learning how to really connect your paragraphs together cohesively. and spending that 10 minutes of time planning a really good answer because it matters so much.
But if we don't have enough time for the exam because we panic about how much time it takes for the exam,
Yeah.
do we have enough time to plan?
That's where preparation comes in, and you really have to take the time to really master your time management because, yeah, an hour to write a letter and then write an essay is very little time. So you really need to work on your time management for sure.
Okay, thank you. How about reading? You talked about not reading the entire thing, so I guess that would be like one tip. So it's not a newspaper. We shouldn't try and read the entire all of it. What should we be doing then?
Yeah, so the best thing to do if you don't have the time for preparation classes is kind of have a friend that also needs to take the IELTS and you guys buddy up together and try and like pick out keywords within a text and then have your friend try and quickly find those keywords. There's some different things that you can do that are really helpful, but for the reading, learning how to like skim and scan effectively and efficiently, those are the best things that you can do.
Would it help to read the questions first and then go hunt for the answers by scanning through the past?
Depends. That's a good question. It really depends on the task. So some of the tasks are a lot more challenging than the others, and each of them kind of has a different strategy. But for the most part, yeah, you're trying to match a question to a part in a text, go to the next question, match that to the next part of the passage, and so on.
Right. Okay. Listening, the big one. We feel like these accents is so different. It's what's the tip for listening effectively so we can get the scores we need for?
Yeah, so definitely the big thing, the number one complaint I get is just the accents. Learners are more, a lot of them really like the American accent, or some of them really like the British accent. But when it comes to the IELTS test, it uses like every accent. So you can acquire, you can find a Nigerian accent on the test, or you can
Right.
find a Spanish accent. So you really have to become comfortable with all accents.
Okay. And so that's a great tip. Thanks. The speaking part. This is I find people they go there and they don't speak naturally the way that we used to. For example, in Nigeria we speak English, just plain English, and they might go to the person, the examiner, and immediately change their accent to something else that they might not be comfortable with. Do you have any tips for speaking? What should we be doing about the speaking part?
Yeah, so speaking is something else that you can really take the time to prepare for to do it well. So speaking part two, you have 1 minute to prepare to give a 2-minute speech. You can use that 1 minute really wisely to make sure that you're using really good vocabulary, idioms, a good range of sentence structures and tenses. Like there are definitely things that you can do to prepare. The number one thing is to be fluent. No trying to translate. Well, like you said, Nigeria, it's a native English speaking country, so nobody's translating, but just speak as naturally as possible. Don't try and use these big academic impressive words because it's actually not as impressive as you think it is. You just want to be as natural as possible.
Okay, so we can use everyday English and still be able to do good with the exam?
Yeah, you should be using everyday English, absolutely, because that's how we talk.
Right. Okay.
But
So,
yeah.
so lots of people have not even gotten the CLB 7 yet. But like I said, ideally, to immigrate to Canada, for somebody who has a master's, a CLB 9, and 3 years work experience, they will get really high scores to be able to immigrate to Canada. How much time do you think is required to prepare for the IELTS exam? Some people tell me oh, I'll do it in 6 months, or I'll do it next year, or and I understand too because in some of these countries the exam is a little expensive, so people are afraid to go take it because sometimes this is somebody's monthly salary. You see, so to end up failing this exam will be quite devastating to somebody's finances, and also it's just difficult to immigrate and get the confidence they need. How much time do they need to prepare?
So everybody is totally different. Like I have some long-term students because their general English skills aren't there and they're going to be with me for months. But most of my students that are my short-term students, it takes 2 weeks of preparation. So most students their reading is fine because reading is something you can really master on your own time. You don't really need a coach for that. Listening as well, if you have the time to study often, you won't really need a coach for your listening. But what they need a coach for is speaking and writing. They need that feedback. How can I do this really well? So most of the time it takes me 2 weeks to have the students reach their goal.
Okay.
2 weeks of prep.
2 weeks of prep, and to be ready to go write an exam, get at least a CFP score.
If their general English is high enough. If their general English isn't high enough, then it could take anywhere up to 3 months to a year. Some people even longer. But if they have their general English is high, like any Nigerian who would be a native speaker already, it would take probably 2 weeks of hard work.
Okay, it's good to know. So I have some questions in terms of this. There's certain myth and reality. So I just wanted to throw some your way and see what your thoughts are on them. So some people think talking too much during the speaking is considered showing off. Is talking too much during the speaking part, is that bad for the candidates?
No, not at all. Because what will happen is the examiner will stop you. If you're talking too much, she'll say, okay, that's enough. And then she'll ask you the next question. So you're never going to lose marks for speaking too much unless you're not speaking well. So if you have a lot of grammatical mistakes or vocabulary issues and stuff like that, maybe you don't want to be speaking too much. Or if you're repeating yourself, this is where students can really get into trouble, is because they want to get their point across, but then they keep saying the same thing over and over and over again. And that makes it seem like you're not a fluent speaker. So that's when speaking too much can be a problem.
Right. Okay. And the contrast of that, how about speaking too little, like just responding yes, no, or not giving as much detail?
Yeah, you want to give longer answers because you want to be able to show your speaking ability. So just saying yes, no, just nodding your head, you're not showing how well you can speak, so you're not going to score high at all.
Okay. And how about the essays you were talking about, those letters and understanding the format? How about this? Of course, the maximum amount of words to be used as instructions, but how about people that want to write a little longer? Would that affect your scores a little bit?
Oh, yeah, for sure. So I always have students think that the more they write, the better, the more impressive it is. It's the same as trying to use academic language during the speaking. It's not impressive because, for one, the longer your essay is, the more chances there are for mistakes. And the less time you have to review it and make sure that it's perfect. So the perfect number of words for task 2 is 270. The perfect number of words for task 1 is 170. You do any more than that and you're just doing too much.
Are we expected to actually count each and every word?
Yes, because you cannot be under. So there's like a trick way to do it, like maybe 10 across and then you go 25 down. Okay, 250 words. You cannot be under because you will lose marks for a task completion.
Okay, pretty good, pretty good. And the exam, just like in life, people always complain there's not enough resources to get something done. But with the exam, there's really never enough time to get it done. So Is that actually true? And if it is, what do we do so we can better manage our time?
Yeah, so it's not a lot of time, that's for sure. One of the biggest things you can do, the best things you can do, is really do that 10 minutes of planning. And people always fight me on that. They say that's a waste of time. I don't have time for that. I'll plan as I'm writing. That's the worst thing you can do because your ideas aren't going to be very good unless you give yourself that time to really think about it.
Right. Okay. Accent. We know accents are different. Different
Yeah.
countries speak differently, express themselves differently. Um, should we worry about our accents when we're meeting an examiner? Do we have to change to this American accent or to this British accent, or can we truly be ourselves and still do well in the speaking category?
Yeah, so that's another really common question I get. So there's nowhere on the marking rubric at all where it says you have to have an American or a British, like, no, they do not care at all. Actually, the reason why the IELTS exam uses all of these other accents is because they know that everybody in the world has a different way of speaking and they embrace that and they appreciate that. You do not have to go to the test and speak with an American accent or a British accent in order to do well. Not at all.
It's pretty good. How about pronunciations too?
Yeah,
I mean,
pronunciation.
tomato, like.
Yeah, your pronunciation absolutely matters. So that is 25% of your speaking score is your pronunciation. So if you speak to people and sometimes they have difficulty understanding you, maybe there are some adjustments that you need to make to your pronunciation, and maybe you do need to get some coaching with that or some help with that, because that does matter.
Okay. And we understand this exam is a standard exam, but some people have said, well, I think it's easier in particular countries. Is it going to be the same exam in every country, or does
Yeah.
it matter? Does it change depending on where we go and where we sign up?
It's going to be, it's standard. It's going to be the exact same exam no matter where you take it. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, that's good. So tell us about a little bit about yourself. We've been focused so much on the IELTS, but not really gotten time to know you as much. So you're the IELTS expert. How did you get here?
Yeah, good question. So, I did a lot of studying abroad when I was in university. I started teaching in China, I guess, almost 10 years ago. Oh my gosh. And I enjoyed it. So when I came back to Canada and I finished my degree, I decided to go get my post back in teaching English as a second language. I moved abroad again. And I've been back in Canada for almost 3 years now. And I was privately tutoring people for the IELTS. And then I just decided, you know what? I love doing this. I'm going to start my own business. And yeah, the rest is history, I guess.
Which countries did you visit when you were going abroad?
So my first country that I studied abroad in was Australia. And then the second was China. But then when I went to go work abroad, I worked in Taiwan for 2 years.
It's pretty good. Lots of international exposure there. And when you
Yeah.
went to Taiwan and China, you obviously didn't speak the languages originally.
No,
how was it for you? Was it all as it was all new? How did it go for you?
you know what? The first day in the Beijing airport was such a culture shock. I was in such culture shock. I was like, wow. But I adjusted and I learned to love it. And then I loved it so much, I ended up going to Taiwan, which is a completely different country than China, don't get me wrong. But it was still, it was a very good experience. Absolutely.
So, so tell us about your services for the IELTS. What do you generally help people do? You help them coaching, or what do you help them with?
Yeah, good. So I have a few different offerings. So first I have group classes. This is for the more long-term learners, the people who their general English isn't quite where it needs to be. So it's kind of like a IELTS coaching, general English mixed class. And then I have my private lessons, and this is for the short term, for the people who really just need to quickly prepare for an upcoming test. And then I also offer mock tests for people who really just need to know what their current level is or their current score is and work from there to get their goal.
Are you able to do this online?
Yeah, I do it all over Zoom.
Okay, and people internationally can contact you, and like people from Nigeria, for example, they can reach out to you, and you can help
Yeah,
them.
absolutely.
You get and in terms of like while people are preparing for the exams and using your services, perhaps do you have any recommendations for them as well that they can things they can do in their daily lives, resources, YouTube, whatever, to help them get ready?
Yeah, for sure. So I'm gonna promote my myself right now. But I offer weekly tips on my Instagram page.
Yep.
Um, 8 tips every week. Super, super helpful. Good tips. If you know you're going to be taking the test like in the far future, just start preparing now. That's the best thing that you can do, and then you'll be like really prepared. Because best, as you said, the score that people need to enter Canada for the express entry visa is it's just so high.
Right.
Like,
Yeah. Yeah, I know
higher.
people. I know people that take that multiple times, right?
Yeah.
And that's just the CLB7. That's just to get you into the pool of candidates. It
Mhm.
doesn't mean your overall score, because the way it works is, so we call this comprehensive ranking system points. So CRS points, we put you into the pool of candidates and we give you a score. With just the CLB7 minimum score, you don't have overall score that is pretty high. That is why I'm saying the CLB9 is what I recommend for people that really want to see good progress in that exam. So CLB7 is to start. Yes, I want them to get at least the minimum so they can get into the pool, but the goal is to get people to the CLB9. For people asking about your Instagram handle, just click on the meeting there. It's prof underscore prep. What I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna type it here and pin it. 1 second. So I believe this is the handle.
Yeah, you got it.
So guys, go give her a follow and ask her questions about the IELTS. So Kara, before we let you go, I have 2 more questions for you. So the first question is it's speaking a language, being a native speaker in a language, say like English, is it the same thing as being successful with the IELTS exam? Can a
No.
native speaker fail that exam?
Yes. Yes, they can, and they do. Yeah, absolutely, they can, for sure. Everybody has to prepare. I have Nigerians coming to me asking for help with preparation. I've even had Australians come to me and ask for help with preparation because the the score you need is so high that being a native isn't good enough. You need to be better than a native.
And you need a kind of like a strategy.
Exactly. Yeah, you need that's it. That's what it is strategy.
Right.
Just get those test skills. Because your English skills are there. You don't need to work on your English. You need those test skills.
Right. That's pretty good. Thank you. And last question is, do you have any words of advice for potential immigrants or potential IELTS candidates? Do you have anything you would like them to know?
Yeah, so I just want to shout you out because I think what you're doing is so unique and so awesome. So I'm in touch with a lot of different immigration consultants, but I love what you're doing is you're not just preparing them to be able to come to Canada, you're preparing them for when they get here. And I think
Yeah.
that's just something so cool that you're doing.
Thank you.
So definitely to everyone, that's such an important part of course, you'll be able to find your community here because it's such a multicultural country, but being able to get accustomed to the culture here is really important as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah, as an immigrant, I feel like it's just a different life here. Because when I first came to Canada, I lived in the Okanagan, which is like Vernon. It's close to Kelowna, and Kamloops is not too far away as well. And it was just a shock. And 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 over the years, of course, I've lived in Canada now 13 years. I'm a citizen now, so it's been a while since I've been here. But over the years, I made so many mistakes that I feel like this could save people a lot of time if they have this information ahead of time, because nobody told me anything, so I didn't really know better. Uh, but now I want people that are immigrating here to prepare for success, to prepare to thrive in Canada after they arrive. So that is why we started the series of the Canada Immigration Cafes, so people can start to learn a little bit more about this great country. So yeah, thank you for that. That's good. Kiara, I know you're busy. Thank you so much for taking the time um, to come join us and talk about IELTS. Yes, it's really kept a lot of people back from achieving their immigration dream. So thank you for that. And for those of you tuning in, yes, you have to write the IELTS exam or CELPIP, and contact Kiara if you have any questions, and ask her about the services. And we hope to see you in Canada soon. As I always tell people, Canada awaits you. So write the exam so you can be here and come enjoy the benefits that we're used to here as well. So thank you, Kiara. Talk to you soon.
Awesome. Thank you so much. It was a pleasure.
Thank you. Take care.
Okay. Bye.
Goodbye. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in. I hope this was helpful a little bit for you. This video will be saved on IGTV and on our YouTube channel as well. Contact Kiara if you have any questions about IELTS. Don't be afraid of the exam. You just have to understand the structure. Have a strategy so that you can become successful with the IELTS exam. Canada awaits you. And until next time, goodbye and good night.